Gentlemen, Rob, let's start with your team. The UConn Huskies are the favorite to win the national championship. One of the last shows I did on After Dark was with the two of you gentlemen. We went game by game for the tournament, filled out a bracket, and we had the UConn Huskies winning this tournament, and I rolled my eyes. I said this was homerism. I made fun of you. I said there was no chance this is going to happen, and now here we are with 2 games left to get there, and UConn is a betting favorite at Bet Rivers to win the national championship, minus 139 with our good friends at Bet Rivers. There's some juice there as well. Rob, is this UConn? Is this him versus the field, or are you more worried than that?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the bracket that we did together, because I think we should all just kind of sit here and reminisce about that Oral Roberts Elite Eight run. Just a memorable Cinderella run. I think is going to get kind of lost in the annals of history, but that was something that they can never take that away. They can never erase Oral Roberts from the Elite Eight. No, I think that it's UConn against the field, and a lot of that has to do with how good UConn is. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think the other 3 teams in this Final Four all have some flaws, or all are exploitable in different ways, and frankly just don't have the same level of talent that these Huskies do. And I would like to think that is something that I would say if I was not incredibly biased in this situation. But Tyler, you tell me, man, like, how do you beat this team? How do you stop this team? How do you slow them down? I don't see a way for Miami to do it, and I don't see a way for San Diego State or Florida Atlantic to be able to do it.
I can't argue with you. And what it's going to take for UConn to have an off night, a very bad off night, because I think they're that much better than every team in the Final Four. The only team that does concern me isn't Miami, it's San Diego State. I think if San Diego State comes out and plays a very physical brand of basketball, which they do, they're a defensive juggernaut, I think they're the only team that could give them a problem if they try to make it an ugly, dirty game. I think that's the way to beat them. But they've won all 4 games by 15 points or more. I don't think there's a team that's playing it right now. And we said here a few weeks ago, and we said UConn's the hottest team. I truly believe that, Rob. I know you got a little – you're kind of a diehard, but I have no connection to UConn, but I love the way they're playing. It's good to see them back on this stage again.
Let me ask you this, Tyler, because I think what we saw in the Creighton San Diego State game was a level of physicality from San Diego State that Creighton couldn't really handle, and I do think that part of it was just the legs for Creighton wore down. They would basically play 5 guys. San Diego State has a deeper bench, but it feels like in the tournament, officials allow things to go a little bit more. They allow teams to play a little bit. They allow you to maybe hand check a little bit more. They allow you to maybe chuck cutters a little bit more. The whole concept of freedom of movement, to me, goes away once that 64 team bracket comes out. Is that, you've played in NCAA tournaments. Is that something that you experience? Is that something that you're seeing? Am I off base here?
No, I think you're right. And last time I was on here, T.O. was talking about how you have refs from different conferences refereeing with each other. So the chemistry with officials could be a little bit off, and officials do have a different style. Some officials let it go. Some officials are pretty tight. But normally, to me, when I look at the game versus Creighton and San Diego State, you always start the game tight to kind of set a tone and say you're going to call these fouls. And then as the game goes on, you kind of let the players play a little more physical, in my opinion, which it kind of seemed almost to go play that reverse effect in the San Diego State and Creighton game. Because, listen, if you're going to call that late in the game, you call that early in the game to let the players know how you're going to call and decide the game. But looking back at that foul call late, I thought it was a foul. It is a foul by definition. But the way the game was ref, do you call it? Now that's up for debate.
So I don't think, the way that I kind of look at it is, I don't think that if that call doesn't get made, right, I don't think San Diego State fans are saying this is ridiculous, this is bullshit, we shouldn't have we should have been shooting free throws for the win. Whereas if the foul does get called, then Creighton fans are very loud and boisterous about being upset, and that to me kind of says all you need to know about whether that call should have been made in that spot, but you're 100%. I mean, that's a foul. You put your hand on a guy's hip and you extend, that's a foul. I just don't know if people are whining about it if it's not called. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. It's just upon which side, who you're pulling for. But I can tell you as a player, somebody's hand on your hip when you go up to shoot, that has a bigger effect on your shot than what most people would think, especially that little touch shot coming down the lane. That's not an easy shot. If you're bumped on the hip, especially, it makes a shot tougher. And also you got to think about landing. But
today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball pick'em, where you can get a little extra sweat during March Madness and win real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's games. In Pick'em, all you do is predict whether a player will go higher or lower on Underdog's projected totals, whether that's points, rebounds, whatever. For example, if you're like me and you think Zach Edey is going to go nuts in this tournament, pick higher on his points projection, add up to 4 more picks, and if you hit them all, you can win 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured it out. So go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, FIELD, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Now is the time to get in on the madness. So remember, underdogfantasy.com, promo code FIELD.
I thought the shot off, and then he kind of gave him a little shove. I'm not sure if the shove happened after the shot was released or during the process, but, who knows?
Yeah, to Tyler's point, I think the most controversial thing from my perspective of the final call was just that I thought there were plenty of plays earlier in the game that had equals of contact that were not called fouls. It seemed to me they established the precedent. This was a game that both teams were allowed to beat each other up. And then in the biggest moment, we get a touch call. Yes, it was a foul. No, I don't think equal fouls were called earlier in the game. And this is divisive. Like, this is going to be a moment people look back on. We put the poll out after the game on the Field of 68 social channels, and 50% of voters said it was a foul. 30% of voters said it was a foul, but you don't call it right there. And then 20% of voters said it was not a foul. So there you go. 50-50 call. Ultimately, in the end, San Diego State moves on. Tyler, I want to
know 20% of our voters are from the city of Omaha and from the surrounding suburbs in Nebraska.
Larger population there than we would have expected, Rob. Tyler, I want to ask you about Miami quickly, because in order for UConn to actually do this, to clinch their national championship as a favorite here, they're going to have to get through Miami first. And I'm a little surprised, being the ACC guy that you are, that you think that San Diego State might be a bigger threat to them than Miami. When I look at this Miami team, I see elite shot makers in Isaiah Wong and Nigel Pack. I think as a shot-making duo, they have an argument for being the most prolific single 2-player combo in this entire tournament, long before there were only 4 teams left in it. But the guy who I think could make the difference in the UConn matchup is Norchad Omier. I mean, he has been a physical monster. He has dominated on the boards. Obviously, UConn's front court is the biggest beast in the sport right now. They gave it to Drew Timme the entire game, got him in foul trouble, game over. Do you think that Norchad Omier can stick in that matchup, or is that part of why you think UConn will have their way with Miami?
I think Omier is definitely the X factor for Miami. I think Miami's guards can play. The thing I do like about Miami is they have tournament experience. They were in the Elite Eight last year. They talked about it post game. Losing the Elite Eight was a big motivating factor for this team this year, and it kept them focused. And they had all the good spirit and all this other stuff. Kind of the reflecting on that.
Are they the vibes team of the Final Four?
Good vibes. Let me see here. Think about it. Maybe, I don't know, determined or good vibes.
It's them or Florida Atlantic. FAU might have an argument for vibes team after they took the Kansas State Lil Baby song from Kansas State. That was a pretty big vibes
right.
moment.
Yeah.
It's close.
Yeah, you might be right.
If it is a Florida Atlantic game in Miami for a national championship,
oh my God, can you imagine?
I mean, Florida's been struggling since the Gators did it back to back, but that'll be interesting. But here's my issue: is if gets in foul trouble. And I think the X factor for UConn is Donovan Klingon, freshman, the 7'2" center coming off. I mean, he's getting 7 points, 5 boards, and almost 2 blocks in about 13 minutes. I think he's a huge X factor for UConn. And if Omier gets in foul trouble, I'm not sure they have the size with Sonogo to really give him some issues down low in the paint. That is my only argument for Miami, and that's why I would lean towards UConn. I think their guards can score, but Jordan Hawkins is playing unbelievable right now. I mean, he's lighting it up from everywhere. I just don't think they have the firepower or the size to compete with UConn, and I'll probably get destroyed in the comment section by every Miami fan out there. But I think UConn. They kind of roll past them.